It was 2017 when the Nintendo Switch was unleashed upon our households. Despacito was yet to traumatize the entire globe, existing only as a hushed whisper between retail workers and their therapists. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was raking in record numbers at the box office. And in a humble little workshop in Strasbourg, France, German craftsman Johannes Gutenberg invented a little thing we know as the printing press. Yes, it truly has been an age since we first laid eyes upon Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, but at long last, with the arrival of the Switch 2, that time has come to an end. Like Drake and democracy. Honestly, I say thank God. People are too stupid for either of those things. And so to wave goodbye to the Nintendo Switch and to say thanks for the memories, we here at Palette Swap have gathered to celebrate its achievements in the form of our list of the top 10 Switch exclusives. We here at Palette Swap, meaning Palette Swap editor Kevin Podas, Palette Swap editor Joe Tellelli, Palette Swap editor Parker Johnson, Palette Swap editor Jake Menez, and me. I am Fudge, Palette Swap video producer and HR manager. That HR meaning huge retention. My degree is in writing. My Joy-Cons are in for repairs. And I must admit to you, this list was originally mine and mine alone. I created my own list of my personal top 10 favourite Switch exclusives, took one look at it and realised the public would simply not accept it, and that the comments section would boil me alive like a sexy king prawn before long if it were released as it was. And so I deferred to the rest of Palette Swap's Council of Elders and we created a collaborative list, each of us submitting top 10s with our number 1 entry gaining 10 points, our number 2 entries gaining 9 points, our number 3 entries gaining 8 points, and so on and so forth, for a potential maximum of 50 points if one game got number 1 on everyone's list, which it did not. And only now do I feel like we have a list that will be palatable to the unwashed masses, and that will not result in me looking like Gerald Robotnik at the end of Sonic Adventure 2. Before we get into this list, something no one asked for, here's my take on the Switch. The Switch is a great console, with mostly mid-exclusives. This is the console generation in which Nintendo truly stopped giving a fuck about Mario Sports and farted out some of the blandest, most content-dry editions we'd ever seen of just about every series. It's the console on which they basically brought back Wii Sports and somehow managed to make that bad. And while I would argue that Pokemon started getting bad on the 3DS, it became unignorably bad. Like, catastrophically non-functional on the Nintendo Switch. And the less said about my opinions on Mario Odyssey and Smash Ultimate, the latter of which my issues with literally launched my YouTube career, the better. Hell, 2 of the best Switch games, Mario Kart 8 and Breath of the Wild, which would easily have topped my list, aren't even Switch exclusives because they're on the Wii U. That's right, Breath of the Wild was on the Wii U. Do you remember that? I only remember because my uncle brought it up to me the other day. He works at Nintendo, but it's really not a big deal. So it's a good thing then that it's not just me handling this list, because you would probably hate my takes. But if you're curious to see the individual lists that were submitted so that you can gawk at my audacity, the lists all 5 of us submitted will be available on our Patreon at patreon.com/PaletteSwapMag, where you can get a whole host of other benefits for as little as $5 a month. Now then, I'm gonna let some of the Yanks in on the action as we explain our picks for the top 10 Switch exclusives in what is sure to be the best collaboration between Britain and the US since... Oh, we have been so evil. Quick honourable mentions before we get started to Kirby and the Forgotten Land and Golf Story, which really is a Switch exclusive, which both tied for points with our number 10 on this list, but we collectively agreed to give the ultimate nod to the entry you're about to see. With that all in mind, park it away, Taker. Take it away, Parker.
Number 10. Tetris 99. Tetris is the perfect video game. There's plenty of forms of it that have come out over the years. Just in the past decade, we've gotten Tetris Effect Connected, Puyo Puyo Tetris, and Tetris Forever. All good additions. Tetris Effect in particular is gorgeous. However, none of them have given me a rush quite like skydiving into tilted towers. Until Tetris 99. This is it, man. At the height of the Battle Royale craze, everyone was making the same formula. Drop in, shoot some guys, be the last one standing. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds did it, and Fortnite did it. Hell, even Call of Duty got in on it. Then Nintendo came in and just said, fuck it, Tetris. And it works, man. There's a rush to competing in Tetris, especially against someone. So against 98 other people, it's an adrenaline rush like nothing else. You can win games just by being good at Tetris, sure, but there's some strategy to it. You can look at how everyone around you is doing and target the people who you think might beat you. There's also quite a few fun Nintendo-themed boards that you could earn. It's not making me come back every day, but fun to jump back in every once in a while, at least. This loop is so good, Nintendo tried to copy it with a bunch more games, but none of them even touched Tetris. Pikmin 99? Whack. Super Mario 35? Get it out of here. F-Zero 99? Actually, I think the F-Zero one was actually pretty good. Maybe we can cut this part out, actually. I think the F-Zero one's actually really good. I've played Tetris 99 for over 25 hours. You know how many times I've won? 0. You know how many of those hours I regret? 0. Because Tetris is hard. I shouldn't be able to hop in and win. But one day, when I win, because it's when, not if, it's gonna feel good. And one more thing that gets commonly overlooked. Did you know there's a whole offline component to this game? By getting a DLC pack or the physical cartridge, you can play a battle against CPUs, do a classic marathon mode, or play a local arena with up to 8 friends. It's silly that this is a selling point, but having a battle royale that you can keep playing even when it inevitably goes offline is pretty cool.
Number 9. Luigi's Mansion 3. Luigi's Mansion 3, or Super Mario The Shining, is a riff on the classic Stephen King novel. And funny enough, this isn't even the first time that Nintendo has done that with the Mario Brothers. All the way back on the GameCube, there was a whole level in Super Mario Sunshine dedicated to rooting out a haunted hotel full of ghosts. While in that game, Mario could defeat the ghosts with a squirt of water and a bop on the head, Luigi's Mansion 3 sticks closer to the gameplay mechanics of the other games in this particular series. Flashlight on the ghosts to reveal their health, and suck them up with the vacuum once their health hits 0. The game is less about innovating and more about refining the experience from the previous 2 games. Yes, there are some new gameplay mechanics, such as Luigi, which is Luigi's gooey doppelganger who lives in the back of the poltergeist. But primarily, the game is built pretty firmly on the shoulders of its predecessors. The original Luigi's Mansion for the GameCube set the parameters for the series, not just in terms of gameplay mechanics involving the flashlight and the vacuuming, but also in terms of story. Every game in the series so far has been about Luigi having to rescue his older brother Mario, who's been trapped in a painting by the nefarious King Boo, who is, I guess, Luigi's arch-rival now. Tough break for Waluigi. In the sequel, Luigi's Mansion 2 introduced new gameplay mechanics such as the Polterpup, which goes on to become Luigi's pet, and the Dark Light, which allows Luigi to find hidden objects. Not to mention the concept of multiple mansions. All of these characters and concepts from Luigi's Mansion 2 come back in Luigi's Mansion 3. Not to mention the more comedic tone compared to the original game. Just as an example of that, in Luigi's Mansion 3, one of the boss fights, and I'm using the term boss fight very loosely here, is against the ghost of a director by the name of Morty Scarsese. But rather than actually fighting him like you would expect to do, since that's what every other boss fight in the game has been, Luigi just helps him create a low-budget kaiju movie. Absolute cinema. Mechanically, as I've said, the game really builds on what was in Luigi's Mansion 2. The Dark Light device that was introduced in the second game used to overheat in that game, and in this one that's no longer an issue, which takes away a lot of frustration when exploring the world. And while there aren't multiple mansions like in the second game, this game does still allow Luigi to go to a number of different environments thanks to the hotel setting. Each floor of the hotel is themed after a different environment, which really makes perfect sense, because who hasn't stepped off on the wrong floor of a Holiday Inn and come face to face with the ghost of a pirate shark? Luigi's Mansion 3 is fun, it's exciting, it's everything I really wanted out of another game in the series. Here's hoping that with the arrival of the Switch 2, we'll get a 4th game in the series for another scary good time. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
Number 8. Pikmin 4. Not since I introduced fentanyl to my local primary school have I had this much fun ordering tiny creatures to do my bidding. I have always liked Pikmin, in particular Pikmin 3, which was easily one of the best Wii U exclusives before it got ported over, but Pikmin 4 is what truly made me a fan. Pikmin 4's only issues, in my opinion, are that it's a little on the easy side, and that it has a classically Nintendo tutorial in the form of an opening 90 minutes that sees you do nothing but walk in straight lines and get yapped at with nary a "I've played these games before" button in sight. Once it finally lets go, though, Pikmin 4 has nigh perfect pacing. The main story, i.e. the part you have to beat to get the credits to roll, is about 12 hours long, but it's after that that the best levels in the game unlock. Primordial Thicket is peak Pikmin, so alien, so dense, so littered with strange creatures and precarious peculiarities. And then there's likely my new favourite level in Pikmin history, Giant's Hearth. Nintendo always claimed to make games for the whole family, but only with Pikmin 4 can they truly hang their hat on that claim, because here's a level based around a giant barbecue. Uncles of the world, your time is now. But levels only tell half the story, because the best word to describe Pikmin 4 would be one I just used: dense. Inside these levels are caves to be spelunked, Dandori challenges to be solved, and Dandori battles to be won. With its focus on newfound series buzzword Dandori, Pikmin 4 I think actually retroactively makes previous entries in this series better. By focusing on and illuminating that Dandori, which is to say efficiency, perfection in organisation and resource allocation, is what these games have always been about, I for one gained a greater appreciation for Pikmins 1 through 3. I felt like I understood them better. But Pikmin 4 is the one that did that for me. It's the one that turned on the light bulb in my head. I didn't even know I had a light bulb in my head. I will be seeing a doctor soon. Pikmin 4's night levels, in which you assemble a platoon of glow Pikmin to fight off hordes of nocturnal horrors, are yet another layer on the perfectly balanced content sundae it offers up. Not since I introduced fentanyl to my local primary school have I seen something so likely to traumatize children, but I kinda love it. One, because children being traumatized by video games is good and builds character, which I only say as a half joke, and two, because it's variety, baby. Pikmin 4 has so much variety, it has so much going on, and yet it's all so perfectly completable within a reasonable amount of time, which is a huge breath of fresh air in this day and age. It was the first game in a long time that I 100%ed, all treasures collected, all platinum medals earned on every challenge, and I had a blast the whole way. Pikmin 4 truly has that dog in it. It has 2 dogs in it. Nothing can compete with that.
Number 7. Fire Emblem 3 Houses. This is the only game on our top 10 list that I hadn't played prior to making this video. With the Switch 1 era coming to a close, are we really going to have to call it the Switch 1 from now on? I don't want to do that. This felt like a glaring personal omission in the system's legendary game catalog that I wanted to fill. Fire Emblem games are fun, but the stories can be a little samey. Fire Emblem Awakening was the last game in the series that I played, and it's arguably the one that skyrocketed the series to the more mainstream status it has to this day. That's also why we have so many Fire Emblem reps in Smash Bros. Now. Sorry, Scrimblow fans. Awakening was ambitious, and it built greatly upon the foundation set in place prior. But, let me tell you, 3 Houses is that all over again. At first, I was disoriented, overwhelmed, and a little scared if I'm being honest. I'm used to picking my units, making sure everyone has a am I saying that right? I've never even known how to spell it until now. And then going into battle. But now I gotta go to school? I gotta be a teacher? I have to go to choir practice? What is going on? The moment I was let free to roam the halls of Garreg Mach Monastery, my mind was blown. Being able to just walk around in a Fire Emblem game felt absolutely foreign to me. I couldn't believe it. Or maybe I'm just easily impressed. Admittedly, they really do throw a lot at you pretty quickly, so I get why some people bounced off of the game because of these parts. You have to conduct classes, plant vegetables, go on awkward tea dates with your students, and, most importantly, go fishing. Should every game have a fishing minigame? Yes, eventually it all clicked though, and I found myself relishing these parts of the game almost as much as the actual battles. The choices you make while on school grounds directly affect and impact different aspects of going into combat, such as leveling up different skill sets for your characters, or building strong support systems which add even more story content and give you different buffs depending on who is close to who in battle. Speaking of choices, the main draw of Three Houses is choosing one of the three houses to ally yourself with. Here is where I was honestly floored by the level of ambition intelligent systems brought to the table. The stories for each path are apparently very different. I say apparently because I've only played through one playthrough so far, but I'm on my second one now in New Game Plus. I won't spoil anything, but with the path I chose the first time around, I found myself often thinking, are we the baddies? The three stories do cross over and intersect, where each playthrough adds some admittedly much needed context for certain plot points. I can definitely say I recommend this game. There is also another Fire Emblem game released on the Switch later on, you know, the one where the main character has Pepsi hair, if you're into that sort of thing, but with this one being one of the only RPGs on our list here, it's definitely a foundational part of the Switch 1's legacy.
Number 6. New Pokemon Snap. As I gush about New Pokemon Snap, the game that I did genuinely place as my number 1 and was thrilled to see it pop up high enough on Jake's list to earn it a spot here, I'd like to present to you my completed works as evidence of this game's picture-taking perfection. What you're seeing right now is my completed New Pokemon Snap gallery. 48 photos of unique Pokemon species, all in dynamic, interesting poses with meaningfully different backgrounds and compositions in every one. Behold this gallery in all its glory. Bask in the precision of these pictures, their elegance, all the many elements that transformed them into the pristine tapestries celebrating colour and emotion that they are. Perhaps you're surprised to see New Pokemon Snap as high as this. You think there's surely no way New Pokemon Snap is the 6th best Switch exclusive. This is because you're ignorant. Many people during the Wii U era clamoured for a new Pokemon Snap game, and when it eventually came, admittedly a little too late for the Nintendo Switch in 2021, it was as if all these people just disappeared. Where were you all? Why was there no one there with me in the trenches to join me in proclaiming this as literally the best thing to come out of Pokemon since Black and White? Oh, you don't think I'm serious about that? Buddy, I am a Gotham gangster being held at knife point by the Joker on a pool table in 2008. I am so serious. New Pokemon Snap is everything a sequel should be. It is everything that a game about taking pictures should be. Ask yourself, what more could a game about taking pictures of Pokemon do that New Pokemon Snap does not do? I think the answer, if you've actually played it, is not much. Research levels that change the Pokemon and the goings on in the level for return trips, alternate routes and courses that further demand those return trips, filters and album management to appeal to the hobbyist photographer bound to be lying dormant in a lot of this game's players. Beyond it all, New Pokemon Snap is so charming. It's the most charming Pokemon has maybe ever been, and it does so without simply worshipping the first generation like so many other games looking to revere Pokemon's history do. A pair of Chloritzer get into an underwater shootout in this game. A Flygon takes an apple from you and flies back to its nest with it to feed a pair of baby Trapinch. My favourite memory? When you play the music box to Altaria, it sings back to you. New Pokemon Snap is like a theme park for Pokemon fans, only it doesn't charge and a 12-year-old doesn't vomit on your shoes, nor do you get a court appearance for kicking that 12-year-old into the path of an incoming B&M hypercoaster. God, I fucking love New Pokemon Snap.
Number 5. Ring of Fit Adventure. That's damn right. Ring Fit Adventure, baby. Nintendo has their fair share of gimmick games that use some weird controller or unusual control scheme. Some of them are good. I mean, Wii Sports is a cultural icon for a reason. Others are Everybody 1-2 switch. Ring Fit might look like an easy gimmick game to write off at a first glance, but I promise you, it rises above them all. Ring Fit Adventure is a fitness game primarily, but much, much closer behind than you would expect. It's an RPG. Look at this. You see that? That's a skill tree. A skill tree that expands as you go and is more rewarding than a lot of other turn-based RPGs out there. That's not where it ends either. There's smoothies that act as potions to enhance your attacks or restore your health, workout gear that acts as armor, and some top-notch character designs. Look at this dude, for example. This is Abadonis. If you're learning ab workouts from someone, this is the fucking guy to do it. He's named after abs, for Christ's sake. Then, of course, you've got the bread and butter of the game, the fitness. When you choose a level from the world map, you run through it by jogging in place while pulling the exercise ring to do different actions like slide on a zip line or shoot some air under you to jump higher. Combat is done by doing different workouts, with different body part workouts being strong against particular enemies. These get fucking hard, man. Nearing the end of a 30-minute workout, doing squats to defeat a boss can feel impossible. When you do it, oh man. Feels as rewarding as beating a Dark Souls boss. And you just got a little more fit. Ring Fit Adventure is also, to me, the game that defined the COVID era. Lots of games came and went for me during this time, but for nearly a year, I played Ring Fit 5 days a week, every single week. And despite this, I'm still not close to seeing all of the content the game has to offer. That's impressive in its own right. Of every franchise under Nintendo's umbrella, Ring Fit is the one I hope gets a sequel on the Switch 2 the most, and I'm not kidding. Fuck Star Fox, fuck F-Zero, get Splatoon out of here. It's time to do some crunches, buddy.
Number 4, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. If you were to only own a single Nintendo Switch game, there is a case to be made that it should be this. Super Smash Bros. Is the pinnacle of everything Nintendo, and a love letter to video games at large. Each character painstakingly brought to life by Sakurai and his team. All incredibly unique with designs and movesets that honor the games they came from, but follow a close enough format that you could swap between any fighter and have a rough enough idea of what to expect, even if it's your first time with the character. And the art direction! Mashing together Mario, Snake, and the guy from My Girlfriend's Phone background in a singular cohesive art style should not work, but Sakurai and his team found a way to make sure it does. The series invented platform fighters, and while other devs have tried their hand at the genre to varying degrees of success, nothing holds a Fire Flower to the OG. 2 of the new modes added to Ultimate have proven over and over to be a blast when you've got some buddies over. Squad Strike works like a typical stock battle, but lets you select multiple characters for those stocks. Start out as Fox, and then when he's lost, you pop in as Falco. Smashdown is a gauntlet of dozens of battles in which after each, the previously selected characters are grayed out and unselectable. You then just keep duking it out with your friends until you've cleared the whole roster. Now I know there are Melee purists out there, and we could really dissect this series with a fine comb discussing which is the best at the competitive tournament level, but for casual play, the series has never felt better. It's hard to even imagine where Super Smash Bros. Can go next. This being the 5th entry, it has a certain finality to it. This is the Ultimate One. Everyone is here. 82 characters, and that's not even including the fake ones like Daisy and Dark Pit. The promise that everyone is here will be an even harder feat to pull off again in a follow-up. I have my doubts it could be topped, but I'm happy to be proven wrong. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate holds the honor of being the 4th best Nintendo Switch game, and the only video game series released in the West to have Lucas in it.
Number 3, Metroid Dread. I think it's safe to say that when Metroid Dread was announced, no one was expecting it. This was the first game in the Metroid series in nearly 20 years to not be part of the Prime sub-series, a remake of an existing game, or Other M. Metroid Dread is a direct sequel to Metroid Fusion all the way back on the Game Boy Advance, just to give you a greater frame of reference for how long it had been since a new game in the series had really come along. As usual, the game starts with bounty hunter Samus Aran landing on a brand new planet ready to explore it with her full arsenal of power-ups, only to immediately get her shit rocked by a powerful new foe, leading her back to square one. This time around, Samus is fighting not only a mysterious new alien warlord, but also a whole fleet of Boston Dynamics robots. And the title Metroid Dread Dread really sells exactly how the game feels. It's not a traditional horror game in the sense of something like Alien Isolation or even Resident Evil 7, because at the end of the day, this is a Nintendo game and one of their flagship characters. But the game still manages to do a great job creating a foreboding atmosphere. Anyone who ever played Metroid Fusion remembers the horror of being stalked by the SAX as it follows you from room to room, and this game expands on that with a number of different robots that can do the exact same thing to Samus. I'm not too big of a man to admit that more than once, while being pursued by the robots in the game, I had to pause the game and wipe my sweaty palms off. I think one of the strongest parts about this game is exactly how many power-ups players get over the course of gameplay. By the time you get to the final boss, I think literally every single button on the Nintendo Switch controller has some sort of function, half of which you'll use once and then forget about entirely until it's too late. By the way, this game also launched simultaneously with the Nintendo Switch OLED version, and that's no coincidence. On a console that's sometimes unfairly maligned for how some of the games look, Metroid Dread really is a very beautiful game to look at, whether you're going through a lush jungle or a deep, dark, underwater cavern. These types of environments aren't new for the series, but this is the first time they've been rendered in such clear, vivid detail. While playing through the underwater portion of the game, I learned the word thalassophobia, and maybe even experienced a little bit of it. That's how good this game looks. Nintendo could have rested on their laurels. Just announcing a brand new Metroid game was all it was going to take to get people to rave about it. But the fact that they went and actually made one that's phenomenal is more than I think anybody could have asked for. Hopefully when Metroid Prime 4 releases for the Switch 2, or the Switch 3, or the Switch 7, even if it's only half as good as Metroid Dread, it would still be one of the best games Nintendo has ever put out.
Number 2, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Let's start from the top. 8 years ago, Nintendo released its first foray into open-world game design, with the massive hit The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Nintendo took the genre and rebuilt it from the ground up. Open-world games at the time mostly followed the Ubisoft model, in which the player is bombarded with icons and tasks on a map, overwhelming them with all the things they should do. Breath of the Wild flipped this blueprint on its head. The map is mostly empty, motivating players to seek out their own goals. I wonder what's up that cliff. I'm gonna get to the other side of that mountain just because I can. Your map became not a to-do list of what you've yet to do, but a journal logging all of which you have done, seen, and accomplished. And while they didn't do away with everything Ubisoft laid out, I'm looking at you, climbable towers, to view new bits of the map, Nintendo breathed fresh air into an otherwise stale genre with its world-first, map-second approach. We don't get Elden Ring without Breath of the Wild. Heck, Ubisoft even copied them right back with their We Have Breath of the Wild at Home game. While this open-world masterpiece launched with the Nintendo Switch back in 2017, it simultaneously released on the Wii U, thus making it ineligible. Thankfully, a much better game came out just 6 years later. Nintendo's sequel to its open-world global hit took the console generation by storm, once again. Reusing assets of Breath of the Wild, including the same Hyrule map, allowed Tears to be in conversation with its predecessor, while opening the developers to focus on other areas of gameplay to innovate on, like integrating elements of the Kerbal Space Program. We could argue until the blood moon rises whether Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom is better, but at the end of the day, you'd still be wrong. Personally, I put 12 hours into Breath of the Wild before losing interest, and 150 hours into Tears of the Kingdom. Something about it just clicks better, and I think I know what it is. While Breath of the Wild is mostly agreed upon to be a masterpiece, there was still massive discourse over one feature in particular: weapon durability. Remember that argument? Link's swords and spears would fall apart after several encounters, with the intent of encouraging players to experiment with new stuff and not grow too attached. But this didn't have that effect on everyone. Psychologically speaking, it feels worse to lose something you have than it feels good to gain something new, even if clearing out that camp meant you might find a new one. That led to a lot of players avoiding encounters so as not to waste their cool new weapon, dampening their desire to explore and engage with the game. Tears of the Kingdom addressed this beautifully with the fusion ability. Instead of outright removing weapon durability, Nintendo doubled down on it, but expanded the experimentation exponentially by allowing you to combine weapons into one. While you could still blow through your weapons quickly, even the simplest combination of a rock on a stick is powerful enough for most anything, and fun to swing around. This feature got somewhat overshadowed by Link's Ultra Hand, but for a good reason. Ultra Hand built on Breath of the Wild's promise of feeling like you could do anything, by now letting you build anything. Which is cool as shit! Yes, eventually the only build you needed became that hover bike once you figured that out, but strapping in a Korok to your cock and balls shaped rocket so he could break the sound barrier simply never gets old.
Number 1. Super Mario Odyssey. That's right, baby. Super fucking Mario. Right in the top slot where he belongs. Way back when the Switch was first revealed in 2016, God, I never thought I'd be saying I was nostalgic for 2016. We got our first glimpse at the handheld hybrid system along with some mysterious clips of a brand new 3D Mario being played. Now, prior to this point, Mario games had been in kind of a creative rut. Sure, Super Mario 3D World was fun, but it didn't feel at all revolutionary in the way that games like Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, and Super Mario 64 did. Matter of fact, it kind of felt like a bigger version of a game that was already on 3DS, Super Mario 3D Land. And prior to that, we had New Super Mario Bros., New Super Mario Bros. Wii, New Super Mario Bros. 2, and New Super Mario Bros. U. What's new is old, as they say, or maybe they don't. I didn't bother to look it up. But man, given all this, Mario Odyssey was just a breath of fresh air. A breath of the wild. No, that doesn't make any sense. Mario returns to the sandbox environment in this game, throwing back to 64 and Sunshine for the first time in a very long time. And controlling Mario is an absolute delight here. The freedom of movement is extraordinary and nearly unparalleled to anything else I've played. As much as I love Galaxy, Mario's movement was more or less locked in 8 different directions there. Odyssey, however, gives you 360 degrees to run around, flip around, and woohoo your way around a series of unique worlds and biomes that are filled to the absolute brim with little challenges. You ever throw your magic hat off the Empire State Building, long jump, bounce off of it, and then do a jump dive to get even more distance? No, that alone would be more than enough to please me, simple as I may be, but this game also gives you the ability to control over 50 different characters via the capture mechanic. Chain Chomp, Hammer Bro, a photorealistic dinosaur, just to name a few, really add to the game, making it feel like more than just a traditional run-and-jump 3D platformer. Would you guys believe me when I say that Fudge didn't even have this in his top 10? What the fuck is that? Fudge hates fun. Say it with me. Fudge hates fun. Now, I have heard people complain that this game throws too many power moons at you, the game's main collectibles, and I admittedly can sort of see the merit in that. They're less like the mission-focused power stars from Mario 64, and more like E.T.'s Reese's Pieces. They act like the tasty little trail guiding you along and enticing you on your adventures, encouraging you to check out every little nook and cranny of each world and to interact with every little thing just to see what might happen. And then getting rewarded with a shiny object for doing it. The 1-2 punch of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey just months later might go down as one of the greatest launch years for any system, I imagine. Oh, I forgot to mention ARMS. Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, and ARMS. Wow. I don't think we'll get a Super Mario Odyssey 2. I think that moment is past. But if Nintendo can combine their efforts here with the open world elements teased in Bowser's Fury, I think we're potentially in for something really special on Switch too. But for now, Super Mario Odyssey is a wonderful showcase of everything great in the portly plumber's extensive catalog. Plus, you can control a big letter A. Look at that. A big walking letter. Video games are incredible, man.
And that's our list. Hope you enjoyed. No, none of us have played Xenoblade Chronicles because no one has that much time on their hands. Thank you to our legendary tier patrons: Josh Hanauer, Serial Lauro Bayer, Bijan Imadi, Strawberry, Yo Adrian, War Crimes Uwu, and Dr. Cruiser. See you next time.